Hey, Kentucky, welcome back. Keith, first up, some folks across the bluegrass have apparently poisoned themselves while trying to fight COVID-19 as part of a national trend. The state's Poison Control Center saw a 30% increase in overall calls related to disinfecting agents last month, a 56% increase in poisonings from household cleaners, and a 30% increase in poisonings from hand sanitizer. Keith.
Yeah. I know, as bad as it sounds, though, I think if I read it correctly, the big jump was in 5-year-old and under. So I'm just guessing that maybe people are keeping it out a little too much because they are cleaning everything, and maybe the 5 and under got to it. I hope they're not trying to take care of the things themselves.
Listen, the president can say all he wants, he had nothing to do with it, but come on. Come on, man.
Yes.
All right. While there are thousands of coronavirus cases across most of Kentucky, a handful of counties have no confirmed reports of the illness. Local officials and residents say the seemingly unaffected areas have something in common. They're largely rural, and several don't have big boy retailers such as Walmart to draw large crowds or a large factory. Keith, that would seem to make sense.
Yeah, you probably places that you got to drive to get to your neighbor too. So, and when you talk about some really rural areas, yeah, you just aren't really getting around each other, especially if you're not going to churches or other big things like you said, like a Walmart.
That doesn't mean you can't get it. My cousin and aunt both have it. They live in a town of 80 people in Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
80 people. All right, a new study shows Kentuckians are in a better position to adhere to the safety guidelines. Wallet Hub reports that we're in the 4th easiest state in which to properly socially distance. That's based on factors like participations in local groups or organizations, level of physical activity, consumer expenditures related to social activities, and per capita spending on travel and tourism. Keith, but I hope those things come back. I hope we can still get out and travel and take part in the greatness that is Kentucky.
I was a little offended because they said that we don't pay to socialize enough. I don't get that part of it. And I think that people get out around, especially Lexington and Louisville. Maybe it was just the other areas that don't get out much.
And I think they still gather. My goodness, they still do things
Yes.
for fun. They just don't have to pay for it. All right, Governor Beshear has issued an apology to a Kentucky man who goes by the name Tupac Shakur. The governor cited Shakur's unemployment claim as an example of a phony submission that's contributing to the slowdown in processing the enormous volume of claims. But after learning that Tupac is real and not related to the iconic hip hop artist, Beshear apologized and says he's working to get Tupac his money. Keith, the governor called him this morning and apologized.
Good for him. Tupac better get his money.
I know.
I mean, it is kind of funny, though. You hear that and you think maybe somebody is trying to take advantage. But this is a really very real person who lost a job and is just trying to get some help paying his bills.
Yeah, he works in the restaurant industry in Lexington, which has been hard hit. So he's
Yes.
been waiting for 6 weeks now to get it. I hope it comes soon.
Yes.
UK basketball has added 2 more opponents on the 2020 non-conference schedule. Georgia State and Cleveland State are the new home additions to the lineup on November 20th and 30th, respectively. Keith, the schedule is shaping up.
Yeah, and the only real weird thing to me was that the CBS Sports Classic right now doesn't have a venue. And the other part of that is the fact that for now, that game in London is still a go. So we'll have to wait and keep our eyes on it and see what they decide. But for now, that game in London in December is still a go against Michigan.
Well, how about this? All right, former UK basketball coach is pitching the idea of a coaches reunion of sorts at Rupp. Now that Billy Gillespie has returned to coaching at Tarleton State, he's proposing a 4-team tournament at Rupp featuring UK, Tarleton State, Rick Pitino's Iona, and Tubby Smith's High Point. Keith, I would pay out the wazoo for tickets to this.
First off, I think it should happen. Second off, I think it might happen because here's what I think we could see happening. I think Billy G and Pitino get together and put a little pressure on Kentucky to make this happen. If they can pull Tubby along, I think there's a really good chance we're going to see this happen. And I would love to see this. What a great idea.
It's a fantastic idea. And with how sports have been impacted, to do this in the future would be just so great. All right.
Yeah.
One digital asset manager is offering investors a chance to buy cryptocurrency that is backed by a whole year's supply of Kentucky bourbon. The so-called tokenization of Wilderness Trail bourbon is part of a trend where an underlying asset, such as real estate or commodities, is used to back online currency. Keith, I do not understand cryptocurrency at all, but if it's backed by bourbon, how can you go wrong?
And I think it will happen. And yeah, no, I think it is. I don't get it, but you're right. It is Kentucky, and if that's part of it, it's going to happen.
That's right. All right. The wrap up is next as Hey Kentucky continues.